my mom said might not be true. I believed wholeheartedly that my grandma could hear me at the other end of that line. And you know what? That phone helped me heal from my grief for the loss of my grandmother. And eventually one day I found myself not needing the physical phone anymore to be able to access Grandma's spirit watching over me. I do wish I still had that phone though, it was pretty cool. My child self simply believed the story about the phone where any adult that was handed a similar grief tool, because that's what it was a tool for grief, they might look at it as dubious and silly. Obviously, my grandma was not listening to me on the other side of the phone, an adult might say. We might sadly look at a 5-year-old who is talking to a lost loved one on a defunct phone and smile at her broken-hearted sadness. I have trouble with the word naivety. It's fine. You know what I mean. But the thing is that the 5-year-old version of me learned how to process sadness efficiently with that phone. I picked up empowerment through that tool. I learned how to talk to God and imagine the loving place of the kingdom of heaven where I knew Grandma was waiting for me. It was the first time I'd ever thought about the kingdom of heaven. It was the first time I'd ever thought about God, and it was because of that phone. And so you know what? The way that I processed that as a 5-year-old is much more spiritually mature than what many of us experience in our adult years. Through the experience with the broken phone, I hear my child self, because that's where I was going with this, is that I was asking my child self about God, and I hear my child self telling my adult self to allow more imagination in my faith. Because you see, children are willing to lean into imagination of this phone accessing heaven because they don't understand all the mechanics of reality. And by the time we become adults, that reality has beaten us back enough times to be skeptical of things like magical phones to heaven and the utility to bring us into communion with those that we lost. But we need that imagination. Imagination is so critical. Because imagination of the unknown, this matters just as much as the realism of understanding our present experiences of being adults. I needed that magic phone to help me cope with my grief, and that magic helped me learn how to talk to God and imagine His kingdom for the first time. Unfortunately, I needed to use that magic phone once again recently, and like I said, I don't have that cool one that lit up from the 90s. If anyone sees one at a store, that would be a great birthday gift for me. I really liked that phone. I just have my square iPhone like everyone else has. And when my friend Jamie died, who I've spoken to you about before, she passed away in 2022, I continued texting her on my iPhone. Pictures of my kids growing up, stories from my week. Sometimes I text her prayers that reminded me of her and helped me heal from her loss. Or sometimes I would just yell at her through those text messages. And I did the same thing with Jamie in these text messages that I did to my grandmother years ago. And I asked her, what does God look like? What does heaven look like? And I imagined her holding her son, who also passed away, and beaming contentedly in the light of God's magnificent glow. I would ask Jamie these text messages, what does heaven look like? And I'd imagine her standing on a beach with her son, playing in the water. I knew Jamie wouldn't ever respond, but I summoned that magic of my childhood faith through my one-sided conversation with Jamie to not only imagine her spirit crossing into God's care, but to imagine the beauty that God was creating for her and her son in His kingdom. My text messages to Jamie recently went from green to blue, and if you don't have an iPhone, that means that the number that she used when she was alive has been recycled into new hands. Someone else has the phone now. So I decided I probably shouldn't text her anymore so I don't antagonize some random person who now owns that phone number. But because I had tapped into this sense of childlike imagination to communicate with a dead friend that I logically know can't hear me, I felt at peace with the end of that one-sided messaging chain. The text messages that I sent to heaven for Jamie and the phone calls that I sent to heaven to my grandmother years before helped wrap my grief in gentleness and reimagine God guiding each of these loved ones into the new journey that they're now embarking on alongside Him. My child self taught me to use imagination to cope with the darkness of lived reality. I didn't use my imagination to hide from or deny the awful truth that Grandma and Jamie are dead. Instead, I used my imagination of my phone calls to heaven to expand and soften my heart so that I could heal and grow. And this is what Jesus wants from us. He wants us to access our childlike imaginations and faith, even when it seems silly, because our ability to be curious and imaginative like a child helps us to heal and grow. And when we heal and grow, we live into being the people that He means us to be. And when we become who He means us to be, that is when we grow the kingdom of heaven that we imagine joyfully is waiting for us. Amen.
Could all join me in singing the sermon response song, Dear Younger Me. If you know the words, you're welcome to sing along. Dear younger me, I start. If I could tell you everything that I've learned so far, then you could be one step ahead of all the painful memories still running through my head. I wonder how much different things would be, and dear younger me. Some speech about how to get the most out of your life, or do I go deep and try to change the choices that you'll make, 'cause they're the choices that made me. And even though I love this crazy life, sometimes I wish it was a smoother ride. Dear younger me, younger me. Oh, if I knew then what I know now, condemnation would have had no power. My joy, my pain would have never been my worth. If I knew then what I know now, it would have not been hard to figure out what I would have changed if I had heard. Dear younger me, it's not your fault. You were never meant to carry this beyond the cross, Lord. Dear younger me, you are holy, you are righteous, you are one of the redeemed, set apart, a brand new heart. Oh, you are free indeed. In every mountain, every valley, through each heartache you will see, every moment brings
Let's share our prayer requests and praises this morning. If you have something to share that you'd like to be